Hello, all you freedom-loving people. President Trump imposed a 25% tariff on foreign cars, and RFK will cut HHS staff by 25%, and deportations continue with a leader of MS-13 being arrested amid court battles. Okay, let's get into it. The drama over the Signal chat with journalist Jeffrey Goldberg isn't over yet. The Atlantic published the full transcripts of the Signal chat between senior national security officials. The report was titled, "Here are the attack plans that Trump's advisors shared on Signal." The Atlantic tried to infer that Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth provided the exact timings of warplane launches and when bombs would drop. According to a screenshot that was provided in the report, the Signal Group had 19 members with National Security Advisor Mike Waltz as the administrator. But Mike Waltz posted a clarification on Wednesday. He wrote, "No locations, no sources and methods, no war plans. Foreign partners had already been notified that strikes were imminent. Bottom line, President Trump is protecting America and our interests." Mike Waltz told Laura Ingraham of Fox News that he took full responsibility for the embarrassing mishap. Vice President J.D. Vance followed up with the Post saying that Goldberg was making a big deal of it. Vance wrote, "It's very clear Goldberg oversold what he had, but one thing in particular really stands out. Remember when he was attacking Radcliffe for blowing the cover for a CIA agent? Turns out Radcliffe was simply naming his chief of staff." White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt refuted the latest reports, saying that no classified information was released in the Signal chat. The Atlantic has conceded these were not war plans. The article that Goldberg published on Monday was titled, "The Trump Administration Accidentally Texted Me War Plans." Secretary of State Marco Rubio, for the first time on Wednesday, addressed this incident. He said, obviously, someone made a mistake. Someone made a big mistake and added a journalist. Then Rubio explained the purpose of establishing this group.
For purposes of coordinating how everyone was going to call, when these things happen, I need to call foreign ministers, especially of our close allies. We need to notify members of Congress. Other members of the team have different people they need to notify as well. And that was the purpose of why it was set up.
Rubio said that the information was not technically classified, nor did it at any point threaten the operation or the lives of our servicemen. He said that the White House was investigating the matter. They can track how Goldberg was added to the group. Mike Waltz, in an interview with the Ingraham Angle, also said he would pursue the case. He said that he 100% doesn't know Jeffrey Goldberg, the Atlantic editor-in-chief, and Goldberg is not one of Waltz's contacts either. So now Elon Musk is helping to lead the investigation into the Signal chat leak. Caroline Leavitt said Elon Musk has offered to put his technical experts on this to figure out how this number was inadvertently added to the chat, again, to take responsibility and ensure this can never happen again. Today, federal law enforcement officers captured an alleged major leader of the MS-13 gang. President Trump said on Truth Social, "Just captured a major leader of MS-13. Tom Homan is a superstar." The alleged 24-year-old gang member who was arrested today has not yet been publicly named, and he is expected to face charges in the Eastern District of Virginia. Attorney General Pam Bondi was present for the raid, along with FBI Director Kash Patel.
This task force is going to go everywhere it is needed across the United States to bring the form of justice and measured security and safety that our American citizens deserve. It is an America First model because we live in the United States of America. And if you are here illegally, you will not be here any longer. And if you are going to continue to commit acts of violent crime, you will meet the same fate that this individual did this morning.
Bondi said at a news conference that the man was the leader for the East Coast, one of the top 3 in the entire country, right here in Virginia, living half an hour outside of Washington, D.C. Also today, the White House announced that President Trump has withdrawn the nomination of Representative Elise Stefanik to be the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations. This is because of the narrow majority that the GOP has in the House. He wrote, "With a very tight majority, I don't want to take a chance on anyone else running for Elise's seat." As we advance our America First agenda, it is essential that we maintain every Republican seat in Congress. I have asked Elise, as one of my biggest allies, to remain in Congress to help me deliver historic tax cuts, great jobs, record economic growth, a secure border, energy dominance, peace through strength, and much more so we can make America great again. The White House also announced a pause on contributions to the World Trade Organization, the WTO, as it ramps up efforts to cut government spending. This is while China says that the new tariffs violate the WTO rules, but the Trump administration is retreating from global institutions that it sees as at odds with his America First economic policies. President Trump also signed an executive order on Wednesday, imposing a 25% tariff on all automobiles that are not made in the United States.
As you stated, we've prepared for your attention a proclamation imposing a 25% tariff on foreign-made cars and light trucks. This is in addition to tariffs that are already in place on those goods. In addition to, as you said, spurring increased domestic manufacture of cars and trucks, we expect that these tariffs will result in over $100 billion of new annual revenue to the United States of America in tariff revenue.
I think ultimately we could probably anywhere from $600 billion to $1 trillion will be taken in over the relatively short-term period, meaning a year from now, but starting right away. I think we'll go from 600 to $1 trillion within 2 years, and I think we'll be right from the beginning, we're going to be at a very high number.
President Trump said in the Oval Office, if they're made in the United States, there's absolutely no tariff. The new tariffs will take effect on April 2nd. New tariffs will be applied not just to foreign-made cars, but also to car parts, including engines and transmissions. However, parts coming from Canada and Mexico that comply with the United States-Mexico-Canada agreement will be exempt from the tariffs until U.S. Customs and Border Protections has a system in place to apply tariffs to non-U.S. parts. Auto workers within the U.S. have applauded this move. President Trump said that he had spoken with the big three automakers, Stellantis, Ford, and General Motors, about the new auto tariffs. He said, if they have factories here, they're thrilled. If you don't have factories here, you're going to have to get going and build them. Auto stocks took the initial hit in after-hours trading after President Trump's announcement. Shares of General Motors fell more than 4%. Stellantis shares were down nearly 3%, and Ford shares were down about 1%. And Ontario Premier Doug Ford of Canada said on Wednesday that he supports the implementation of retaliatory measures in Canada. Premier Ford said in an ex-post, I've spoken with Prime Minister Carney. We agree Canada needs to stand firm, strong, and united. I fully support the federal government preparing retaliatory tariffs to show that we'll never back down. And European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen condemned the tariffs. But President Trump responded by posting, if the European Union works with Canada in order to do economic harm to the U.S., large-scale tariffs far larger than currently planned will be placed on them both in order to protect the best friend that each of those two countries has ever had. Germany, as the leader of the European automobile industry, could be the most affected by the tariffs. Several of the world's leading automobile brands come from Germany. President Trump has said that he would impose tariffs on imported cars several times before, which has led to profit warnings from these automakers. After the White House formally announced the 25% tariff on Wednesday, shares of Germany's Volkswagen fell 5.1% in pre-market trading on Thursday, while car makers such as Mercedes-Benz, BMW, and Daimler Trucks fell about 3.5%, and parts maker Continental sank 2.9%. Volkswagen could be the most affected because it has a large supply base in Mexico. That is why Germany's outgoing economy minister, Robert Habeck, has called on the European Union to respond strongly to the latest tariffs. Habeck wrote, it's now important for the EU to give a firm response to the tariffs. It must be clear that we will not back down in the face of the U.S. Strength and self-confidence are what is needed. And at the same time, we will continue to support the European Commission in negotiations to find a solution with the U.S. that averts a tariff spiral. Volkswagen brands such as Audi and Porsche do not have production facilities in the United States yet, but they are considering the move now. Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. announced major changes at the HHS today.
I have some good news, though. As part of President Trump's DOJ workforce reduction initiative, we're going to streamline HHS to make our agency more efficient and more effective. We're going to imbue the agency with a clear sense of mission to radically improve the health of Americans and to improve agency morale. We're going to eliminate an entire alphabet soup of departments and agencies while preserving their core functions by merging them into a new organization called the Administration for a Healthy America, or AHA.
Kennedy said that 28 HHS divisions will become 15 as some are merged, and that the full-time HHS workforce will be reduced by about 25% from 82,000 workers.
We're keenly focused on paring away excess administrators while increasing the number of scientists and frontline health providers so that we can do a better job for the American people. We're going to streamline our agency and eliminate the redundancies and invite everyone to align behind a simple, bold mission.
Before making this announcement, he described the waste and the low efficiency of the HHS in the past.
Our department is filled for the most part with competent, conscientious public servants, and yet the agency has been inefficient as a whole. Over the past 4 years during the Biden administration, HHS's budget increased by 38%, and its staffing increased by 17%, but all that money has failed to improve the health of Americans. In fact, the rate of chronic disease and cancer increased dramatically as our department has grown. Our lifespan has dropped, so Americans now live 6 years shorter than Europeans. We have the sickest nation in the world, and we have the highest rate of chronic disease. The U.S. ranks last among 40 developed nations in terms of health, but we spend 2 to 3 times more per capita than those nations.
The department said that cuts will save the government about $1.8 billion per year. The federal government spent roughly $6.8 trillion in 2024. On Wednesday, the U.S. Court of Appeals voted 2-1 to deny relief from District Judge James Boasberg's blocking the Trump administration from expediting deportations of illegal immigrants under the Alien Enemies Act. But the DOJ called Boasberg's injunction an infringement on the president's exercise of executive power. The Alien Enemies Act, the AEA, is generally invoked when there is a declaration of war with a foreign country or a foreign invasion. It has been invoked 3 times before, all in wartime. Recently, President Trump invoked it to quickly deport hundreds of members of the Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua. So President Trump shows that he can cite the act because Tren de Aragua is actually invading the U.S. But Judge Karen Henderson of the District of Columbia Circuit Court of Appeals disagreed. She ruled that the invasion had to come from a foreign government rather than a gang. She wrote the AEA authorizes the president to restrain and remove the nationals of a belligerent foreign power. Such power tracks when invasion is considered in its military sense. Another circuit judge, Patricia Millett, opined that the government's appeal was filed too early in the adjudication of the case. There is neither jurisdiction nor reason for this court to interfere at this very preliminary stage or to allow the government to single-handedly moot the plaintiff's claims by immediately removing them beyond the reach of their lawyers or the court. But Circuit Judge Justin Walker dissented, saying that the undocumented immigrants should have challenged their detention in Texas through a so-called habeas petition. They were detained in Texas before being deported. South Korea is sadly being ravaged by the worst blaze in the country's history. By Thursday afternoon local time, the death toll had risen to 27 with 32 others injured. The fire broke out last Friday and the fire continues to grow. Although some of the main fires were contained for a time, strong winds and dry weather have caused the fires to spread again. The wildfires burned large areas in the southeast, forcing about 30,000 people to evacuate in an emergency. The victims included a pilot who died when his helicopter crashed during a firefighting mission. 4 other firefighters and civil servants died during ground firefighting operations. Local firefighters and rescue workers are still actively fighting the fire, but due to unfavorable weather conditions, fire control remains slow. And that's a wrap for this episode. Thank you so much for your support of Front Page. Please remember that every like, comment, and share helps more people to see the truth. If you haven't already, please subscribe. And if you have already subscribed, we thank you, but please double check to make sure that you're still subscribed, because some of our audience have reported that they're somehow unsubscribed without their knowledge. We've also heard that some of you don't get notifications of our videos anymore on YouTube. So when you do subscribe on YouTube, please make sure to tap the notification bell as well. Okay, this is our show for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you like what you heard today, please don't forget to like this video and share it with your friends and family, because everybody deserves to know the truth.